Volunteers winning that series.
Well, BYU, meanwhile, comes in here 10-11, but a little bit better than that record might indicate. They have played in a lot of close games.
Well, you look at a team like BYU and see that they have 11 losses and think they might be having a down year, but look at how many losses that they have that were just within one run, which just tells you that it was one mental or physical mistake that led to them losing those games.
Gordon Eakin, now in his 16th season, telling us how they not only were close, but had leads in many of those games as well. Meanwhile, Tennessee, we talked about that huge series win over Florida. The freshmen, a huge reason why, Madison. You can see the numbers and the output from the first-year players.
Well, I think every coach across the country would love for their freshmen to perform during those freshman years. But, I mean, take a look at these numbers against Florida. Again, a top team. Ashley Rogers going out there, having a dominant presence on the mound. And, of course, Phillips, Shipman, and Osborne just killing it up at the plate as well.
Kaylee Phillips, a huge weekend against Florida, had those 2 home runs in the series opener on Friday. In the circle today for Tennessee, it will be Ashley Rogers. Is off to a terrific start this season. Freshman from Athens, Tennessee. What have you seen from her so far, Madison?
Well, Ashley Rogers is going to mix a rise ball as well as a changeup, but the difficult thing about her pitches is that she can throw her rise ball at any level. She can throw it out of the zone, but she can also throw it for strikes within the zone.
Riley Jensen, first to bat for BYU. Junior from Idaho Falls having a terrific season so far. A BYU team we mentioned that comes in 10-11. Got off to a good start in their tournament last week, won their first 3 before dropping a couple in a row.
Riley Jensen is really just the spark plug for this BYU offense. She's the leader on the field, and she's the rally starter for this team, and that's especially important to have somebody like that in the leadoff spot because it really sets the tone for the rest of the lineup.
Hitting .429 so far. And a good drop ball there, and a quick strikeout for Ashley Rogers. So we talked a little bit about Ashley Rogers. What can we expect here today from the freshman from Athens, Tennessee?
Well, you're going to see a lot of that off speed like we just saw against Riley Jensen, working that changeup, trying to keep these hitters off balance, but where she's really effective is with that rise ball. She's going to throw mid to high 60s and locate that rise ball in different levels of the zone.
Another first pitch strike to Brooke Vanderhyde, the center fielder today. Rogers 7-0 thus far in her freshman campaign. A 1.2 microscopic ERA. And just missed there. What a benefit it is, too, for Tennessee, Madison, to have experience in your pitching staff with a freshman like Rogers.
Well, going throughout the season, you know that Maddie Moss and Kaylin Arnold are talking to Ashley Rogers throughout every step of the way, coaching her up, giving her encouragement, and that's exactly what you want from an entire pitching staff, is for people to pass on that knowledge from year to year so it never goes away.
And time called. Taking a look at the dirt in front of the circle, or at least
I'm wondering if maybe they ended up calling an illegal pitch on that. I wasn't sure. I didn't see the umpire's hands go out, but they were taking a look at the dirt there. Maybe Ashley Rogers sliding that foot forward so that her heel was coming off of the mound. That's the only thing I can think of as far as looking in that part of the field.
Karen Weekly was out to get a word. So the count's 2-1 on Vanderhyde. And it's even up. Vanderhyde has been in the leadoff spot some of the year, hitting second here with Jensen and her prowess at the top. Make it very dangerous. 1-2. And that one fouled off. Struggling a bit in her junior campaign, only hitting 200. 8 for 40. Average has actually gone down every year in Provo. Hit 340 as a freshman. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Popped up. And handled easily in center by Hannon and 2 away. Take a look at the starting defense for Tennessee. And beginning in the outfield, you just saw Hannon there in center. Ayala and Phillips, the corner outfielders as well. So some youth in that region of the field. And then an infield that has certainly moved around a bit, as that pitch is in there to Taylor Williams. Chelsea Segern back in the lineup at third base. Leach playing short, Parsons at second. That one roped foul. How difficult is it, Madison, as a coach, to manage having so many moving parts, the injuries, and different players moving in and out of different positions?
Well, it's extremely difficult, and both of these coaches have had to do that throughout the season so far. We're here midway through March, and they're still trying to figure out what's going to be the best lineup for their team moving forward.
Pitch just missed there. A look there at Gordon Eakin. We talked about him a little in the open. Crossed the 650 win threshold recently. Has done a sensational job with the Cougars. Parsons at second. Fields and throws. And a 1-2-3 first inning for Ashley Rogers. Tennessee coming to bat in the bottom of the first. A 1-2-3 first inning for Ashley Rogers and Tennessee. And now BYU will take the mound with Autumn Moffitt, making her 13th appearance, 8th start. Sophomore from Eagle, Idaho. What can we expect here today, Madison, from the sophomore?
Well, Autumn Moffitt is going to throw a hard, heavy drop, and what that means is the ball is going to come off the table, go low in the zone, so when people do hit it, it is very hard for people to get it out of the yard. And she's also going to mix in an off-speed as well to try to keep these Tennessee batters off balance.
Can see there 36 innings of work and a 2.25 ERA. Gordon Eakin calling her maybe their most confident pitcher right now with how much she has going for her. Speaking of confident, Aubrey Leach stepping in, and she has had a sensational campaign thus far. There's a strike. You just can't say enough, Madison, about what Aubrey Leach has done for this team. You see a look there at the order, and those first two of Leach and Ayala, just a tough 1-2, but 492 is just something else.
Oh, it's just average, right? I mean, she's only getting on half of the time, but no, Aubrey Leach is just stellar up at the plate, and she has so many tools that she can use. She can hit, she can bunt, she can slap, and that's what makes it so hard to pitch to her and also to defend against. These defenses have to decide which part of her game they're going to defend, and right now you've got the infield playing in, so they're trying to cut off the slap, but that allows Aubrey Leach the opportunity to hit away.
Count now, a ball and 2 strikes. It's amazing because she hit 440, a ho-hum 440 in her junior campaign. How does someone like that get even better? What are the things that she worked on?
You just continue to focus on what you do best, and for her, that's reading the defenses and hitting it where they're not, to be quite honest.
Called strike there. Aubrey Leach among the leaders in a variety of categories in the SEC. You can see her batting average we just talked about, but I mean her run production remarkable as well. Here's a 2-2. And now full. And this is one thing she's doing better as well, getting on base. Nearly 600. about 6 out of 10 times on the bases. Payoff pitch. And upstairs, right on cue, a leadoff walk for Aubrey Leach.
And that's exactly what you want out of your leadoff hitter. You want her to go up there and see a lot of pitches, try to educate the rest of the hitters in the lineup, and ultimately Aubrey Leach ends up drawing a walk, and now Tennessee's got a runner on first base, and with the speed of Aubrey Leach, she's almost guaranteed to steal within the first couple of pitches, if I had to guess.
Another discussion right near the circle, and Gordon Eakin not too happy about something.
Autumn Moffitt was digging at the dirt in front of the mound, and that seems to be a happening spot on the field so far here in this first inning. Tennessee had a gathering out there, and now BYU's had a gathering out there as well.
Amanda Ayala now. Talked about this 1-2 in the lineup. Leach nearly 500 average. And now Ayala, who has just broken out in a special campaign so far.
And I think what makes Amanda Ayala so special as a player is going through her freshman year, ends up hitting .289 throughout the season, which isn't bad by any means. But here she is in her sophomore campaign hitting .453. Talk about improvement. I don't know if it gets much better than that.
There's a strike. Moffitt trying to bounce back from that leadoff walk issued. Nice crowd on hand as always here at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium. Two balls and two strikes now. You mentioned the average increase for Ayala Madison, but also the power has come along. Already 10 extra base hits. Runner goes. Not in time to get Leach. And it scoots into the outfield, meaning she can go to third. But we talked before the game about her base stealing prowess. She's 90% for her career coming in, 64 for 70, and give her another.
And she just creates chaos out there on the bases. And like we said up at the plate, defenses aren't sure what to do as far as positioning for her. And then she gets on base, and now all of a sudden, here we are with a runner on third base and an easy opportunity for Amanda Ayala to score her in.
And she draws a walk. So back-to-back walks to start for Autumn Moffitt. And this was something we talked with Gordon Eakin. What's a key adjustment your team has to make? Walks. He can't have free base runners, and sure enough, they put the first two on via the free pass.
And Coach Eakin also said that they need to make sure that they aren't pitching too careful. He said a lot of the times in those close games when they did end up getting leads, they were going out there pitching not to lose rather than pitching to win. And right now we're seeing them being very careful with these Tennessee batters. But again, you cannot give up free passes to a team like Tennessee because they will take advantage of it.
What are her teammates talking to her about right now? Is it just a matter of throw strikes while we're behind you on defense?
If I'm the defense right now, I am telling Autumn Moffitt, just you and the catcher right now, you and Libby Sugg, you guys working. Don't worry about the batters. Don't worry about the situation. Just go out there and throw that drop ball like we see her do in practice all day long.
So they get another runner in scoring position. Ayala goes right away. And now second and third for Tennessee in this first inning as they continue to threaten. Bedorachek cut it off, preventing Leach from trying to go home maybe on a double steal. Kaylee Phillips waiting. Hit sharply toward first. Oh, and the ball gets knocked out of her glove, allowing Leach to come home. Ayala will score as well. What looked like a routine ground ball scores two for Tennessee, and they strike first.
And Arissa Paulson looked like she did everything correct defensively. She got that ground ball off of Kaylee Phillips' bat, hit pretty solidly, and she looks Aubrey Leach back to the bag. Holds her up, and this ball just gets knocked all the way into left field, and very smart base running by Amanda Ayala, the trail runner, to come all the way home and allow 2 runs to score.
So a meeting at the mound now, a meeting at the circle, I should say, between the BYU infields. Another area of concern for BYU, Madison, has been the errors. That was troublesome, especially against UCLA, a game where they were very competitive. Tied in the 5th, and a couple late errors hurt them badly, and it's doing that again here today as Chelsea Segern will dig in.
And that seems to be their Achilles heel, whether it's errors or free passes. That's what's led to a lot of these losses.
And this one hit sharply through the right side. They will hold up Phillips at third. And Segern back into the lineup and producing right away.
Chelsea Segern has been out for the last 2 weekends with a knee injury. She finally got in their midweek versus MTSU and got a couple of at-bats, but good for Lady Vol fans to see Chelsea Segern back out there and ripping it first pitch out there to right field.
So already 2 runs in. The first 4 have reached. And here's Haley Bearden. And there's a strike. Senior from Clarksville, about 200 miles west of here in Knoxville. Now, Tennessee, Madison, they just put so much pressure on you because they can produce runs in so many ways, and you almost have to be perfect defensively.
Absolutely, and they've had so many players really step up. Again, they lost Megan Gregg, their key offensive producer last year. She graduated, and now they've had players like Amanda Ayala and Haley Bearden really step up and produce those power numbers. Haley Bearden, a player that only hit 1 home run last year and already has 5 on the year so far. So kudos to her for stepping into that role, embracing it, and just going up there and taking hacks at these pitches and not just trying to get little base hits. She is up there to hit the ball over the wall.
Speaking of hitting it over the wall, that one deep and off the wall. This will score 2. And Bearden ends up at third. A 2-run triple. Tennessee's first 5 have reached. It's 4-0.
Well, take a look at this pitch right over the heart of the plate. Haley Bearden stays behind it and shows you how strong she is in her legs. Hits this ball right off the center field wall, and not only is she strong, but she's showing off that speed as well, legging out the triple.
First triple of her career comes in the first inning against BYU. Still no one out. Ashley Morgan, a little tapper. They've got Bearden in a rundown. And a smart play. Well done by Chavez, the shortstop for BYU, Marissa Chavez, who suffered a high ankle sprain last week. We weren't sure if she was going to play. That's well done.
A very good play by Chavez. Like you said, she's coming up and she sees Bearden hanging off, and instead of throwing that ball immediately over to first base or immediately to home, she takes off running to try to get Bearden running back towards third base, ultimately gets that out, and now Tennessee's got a runner on 1.
So Gracie Osborne now, freshman from Paris, Tennessee, getting the start at catcher today. And that's a position where Tennessee, Madison, thought they had pretty secure, but an injury to Allie Shipman, your sister, of course, and changing things around a little bit.
Yeah, unfortunately for Lady Vol fans and for Allie Shipman, she is out for the rest of the season, but Gracie Osborne does have experience behind the plate.
And bobbled at third by Erickson. So Osborne able to reach. Still just 1 out.
And right now you're seeing a couple of the mistakes that we talked about earlier with BYU that have really been their Achilles heel. Emily Erickson at third base just looks like she's trying to throw this ball before she has it securely in your glove. And right now, if you're BYU, you have to stop the bleeding. You have to make the routine plays and try to get a couple of quick outs here.
A swing and a miss for Caitlin Parsons. 8th batter to come to the plate in the frame so far for Tennessee. Already 4 on the board with just 2 hits. 3 errors in the frame on BYU.
And really what started it all was those 2 leadoff walks to Leach and Ayala. They saw a lot of pitches, gave a lot of info back to their batters of what they were going to see, and Tennessee taking advantage of it.
Bobbled by Chavez, it's short, and a wide throw, another error. Another run will come home as Morgan scores. A 5-run first for Tennessee.
And if you're Autumn Moffitt, I mean, you are doing everything right. Those first couple of at-bats, she ended up walking those batters, but now she's getting the ball on the ground, and Marissa Chavez comes up and gets it again, trying to throw the ball to first base before she has it, and then she snowballs one error with another error, ends up launching the throw over into the first base dugout. And now here we are with 4 errors for BYU here in just the bottom of the first.
Now, if you're Gordon Eakin right now, how are you talking to your group? Because this is tough. I mean, they've gotten a lot of playable balls, a couple tough ones, but, I mean, these are plays that you would think should be made.
I would say that he's going out there just trying to settle them down. I mean, there's no mistake here. They're making errors on the field. They seem a bit nervous out there. Just calming them down, getting them back to what they could do really well. They've shown moments of brilliance throughout this season. Look back at their game versus Oklahoma, holding Oklahoma just to 1 run throughout 5 innings. They have the potential. It just all comes down to them calming down, making sure that they're seeing the ball in their glove first, then making the plays. And for Autumn Moffitt, she has to continue to throw those balls down in the zone, trust her defense, even though they've had a couple of shaky moments so far this inning. You got to continue to throw that ball low in the zone and make sure you're keeping Tennessee's batters in the park.
So Caitlin Hannon, the number 9 hitter for Tennessee, with just 1 out still. 5 runs already on the board, just 2 hits. We talked about the 4 errors. Hannon hitting just below 400. A breakout junior campaign. And Moffitt misses again. What have you seen from Hannon in her development in her junior year?
Well, I mean, you go back to the Florida series last weekend. Hitting a home run off of Barnhill, I think, is a cherry on top for anybody's career, but for Kaylin Hannon, who has the ability to also lay down the bunt like we just saw there, but her power numbers really coming through, and she's really solidified herself out there in center field of being a sure out anytime the ball gets hit out there.
2 home runs already. Now 3 balls and a strike. Hannon has started the last 5 in center. Started only 1 of the first 17, so certainly a big part of the lineup of late. To third. Well played that time by Erickson. And there's 2 away.
And that's exactly what they needed. Autumn Moffitt to continue to throw those drop balls down in the zone, gets a nice ground ball over to third base, gets out number 2, trying to get some momentum back on BYU's side.
So back to the top of the order. And Aubrey Leach, Tennessee's officially batted around here in this first inning. Leach got it started with a walk. Stole second. Ball got thrown into center. And came around to score the first run. 4 more added since. A tough outing so far for Autumn Moffitt. If we've talked about it, it's not all on her. Really the defensive struggles more than anything. She's putting the ball where it has to be a lot of the time. You have the big triple by Bearden, of course, Madison. But beyond that, I mean, it's been a lot of weak contact.
Yeah, she's been keeping the ball down in the zone, and that's what Coach Eakin talked to us about earlier in the week. He said she has that heavy drop, so it's hard for people to get underneath and lift it out of a ballpark. But so far, we're seeing her do her job, throw those balls low in the zone, get ground balls, but her defense has to back her up. And we saw just there that Emily Erickson had her back on that last ground ball to get out number 2.
Chavez, not in time. Leach beats it out. Another run scores. It's 6-0 Lady Vols in the first.
And that's just another example of why Aubrey Leach is so hard to defend. So the infield was playing back because she was swinging away. She gets a pitch in the other batter's box practically and just taps it over to shortstop. But because Marissa Chavez was playing back behind the baseline, it allows Aubrey Leach to have enough time to beat that throw to first for another base hit.
Ayala now bobbled at second and not in time. Another run in on a defensive miscue by BYU. 7 runs for Tennessee in the first. And another ball that, again, is playable. The play just not made.
And you know what? I got to really hand it to Autumn Moffitt out there in the pitcher circle because she is keeping her head up. She is just going after these Tennessee batters, not giving them any free passes, making them hit the ball and put it in play. Her defense just has to be able to back her up.
Kaylee Phillips now. You can see the pitch count rising significantly for Moffitt, up to 33 now. Ahead 0-2, though, on Kaylee Phillips. And it becomes a question, too, if you're Gordon Eakin, how you manage Moffitt and the pitching staff moving forward, knowing you've 3 more games to play this weekend. There's a good drop ball. And strike 3. So finally out of the first inning for BYU. But a huge frame for Tennessee. Haley Bearden, a 2-run triple. And Tennessee striking first. A tough first inning defensively for BYU. 7 runs for the Lady Vols. 5 errors on the Cougars.
Well, we knew that Autumn Moffitt was going to try to induce ground balls, and she's doing just that. This BYU defense just can't seem to field these balls cleanly and make the outs. It just ended up snowballing one after another, whether it was fielding errors or throwing errors or even one Ariel trying to make or Arissa Paulson, trying to make the tag over at first base, and the ball ends up popping over all the way over to left. I don't think I've seen anything like that before.
Question now is how a young team will react for BYU. Still, of course, a long way to go in this one, and a lot of time and offense that certainly can produce runs. When you're down big like this, Madison, what's the approach offensively? How do you stay engaged knowing that you're down so big?
You really can't even look at the scoreboard. You just have to try to get 1 run at a time. Because if you go up there trying to hit a home run every single at-bat, that's when you get pop-ups. That's when you start swinging out of the zone. You got to go up there and try to just work for 1 at a time. Because, like you said, it's still only the second inning. They have plenty of time to score these runs. But if they go up there trying to do too much, that's when teams tend to struggle offensively.
So the batter is Libby Sugg. And the local product returning home for this 4-game Tennessee Invitational. Can see her numbers struggling a bit so far this season, but has just had a magnificent career with BYU.
And, Coach Eakin said that she is a great player, and he's not really sure why she's off to such a slow start. And, when you come off of a season where you do so well, you know that every team is going to come out to play against you, really. They want to make sure that they're not going to get beat by the other team's best player. So whether it be teams are preparing for her more or she's just trying too hard. But for her, it's just focusing on what she does well, getting back into that routine that she does have. And Coach said that she even started hitting the ball up and squaring it up, but it just started to go right to people. So that's always a good sign when you're squaring it up, but it can be frustrating as a hitter when those balls just go right to the defense.
Yeah, he mentioned her towering blast in the first inning against UCLA last weekend, maybe getting back on track. A long delay here. I thought initially we were just waiting on a substitution, and it's become quite lengthy in terms of waiting for our first pitch in the frame.
Just building up a little bit of suspense. Nothing wrong with that, right?
So Sugg will await the first pitch from Rogers, who had a 1-2-3 first inning. And that pitch is down low. Rogers, the freshman from Athens, Tennessee. Talked about her ERA coming in terrific at 1.21. She has had, though, a couple outings where she struggled. And usually it's getting hit hard early on. You can tell, talking with Karen Weekly, early if she has her best stuff or not. And it seems like she's pretty on tonight.
Well, even in that first game against Florida, I believe that she registered only one out on Friday, and then Maddie Moss ended up throwing the rest of the way. But she came back out on Saturday, ended up getting the complete game shutout. So what a way to turn around against a top team like Florida and come back and shut them out.
Sugg thought she had taken ball 4. A look there at the shutout numbers for Ashley Rogers. A terrific number for a freshman coming in her first year facing some of the best offenses in the country. Towards second. Tough spin on that ball, and Sugg will beat it out. For the first hit, first base runner for BYU.
And typically Aubrey Leach is at second base, but because Gracie Osborne is back behind the plate, they moved Aubrey Leach over to shortstop. So that is freshman Caitlin Parsons over there at second base. And this ball off of Libby Sugg's bat just has enough spin on it to where it drops on the ground and cuts back the other way and gives Libby Sugg enough time to beat out that throw to first.
One of those where you charge it and it might take a tough hop on you, so tough to handle. A swing and a miss from Martha Epinesa, freshman from Moreno Valley, California. California, a big area that they recruit for at BYU. California, Arizona. We were talking to Gordon Eakin about that, and certainly has become a hot spot, a hotbed, I should say, for recruiting.
Well, and in California, you have the benefit of not really having to deal with weather a whole lot. Although the funny thing is a lot of these teams went out to California to play preseason and ended up getting their games rained out. So who would have thought?
I feel like that always happens. I'll plan a vacation to a warm spot, rains the whole time, right?
The East Coast teams just brought all the rain with them out to California, and got some games rained out, unfortunately. But, talking to Coach Eakin, he said they're really working to be more successful. They want to be a team that's consistently in regionals and super regionals. And in order to do that, you can't just sit back and hope that good recruits come to you. You have to go out there and get them. And that's why you see so many players on this BYU team being from Arizona and California.
Epinesa standout at Valley View High School. Fouls that one off. Just 2 for 15 so far, and this her redshirt freshman campaign. Two and two on the way. And now full.
And a nice at-bat by Epinesa so far, laying off that high rise. That's where Ashley Rogers tries to get a lot of her strikeouts, by getting batters to swing out of the zone, but Epinesa not biting a little bit on that pitch.
Here's a payoff. Certainly an emphasis, you would think, for BYU to try to work as many counts as they can to just slowly but surely chip away at the deficit.
Yep, chip away, just one run at a time. Just do a good job. If I'm Epinesa right now, I'm just trying to move that runner over into scoring position for my next batter.
Popped up and handled by Morgan at first. Well done by Rogers to battle back. Olivia Sanchez now.
Olivia Sanchez, a hitter that had a really good game against Oklahoma, and I would imagine that not too many batters around the country can say that, but she ended up breaking up the no-hitter that G. Juarez had going, and then hit another line drive back up the middle off of Parker Conrad that caught right at the last minute.
Back-to-back pop-outs to Morgan and 2 away. A BYU team that has a lot of weapons offensively. We talk about Sugg and Jensen, and rightfully so, but definitely a bunch of players with some pop, home run power, and a lot of young players they like. They have a terrific recruiting class coming in as well, and they're valuing the power in this lineup.
And they also have pitchers that hit as well, and I think that makes it so much more versatile when you're putting a lineup together, when you can have pitchers out there and you can just make defensive changes, whether you're putting them on the mound or out there on the field. When you have them in the lineup and they have the ability to hit, it gives you so many more options as a coach as to where you're going to put people.
Autumn Moffitt. 0-2 now. She's behind. Moffitt's one who will bat. Arissa Paulson as well, a sophomore in the lineup. Just the 8th at bat for Moffitt this season. The ball and 2 strikes now. Certainly would like to help her own cause here if she could. 1-2 from Rogers on the way.
Really working that pitch up in the zone, trying to get these batters to swing and miss. And that's one of the things that makes hitting off of Ashley Rogers so difficult, is that rise ball coming out of her hand looks the same when it's coming thigh high as it does when it's up at your eyes.
That one bounces in. So another payoff upcoming. It just missed. First and second for BYU now. Take another look at that final pitch, that bat.
Ooh, and that pitch just missing on that inside corner. If it missed, it did not miss by much. I would say as a batter, that has got to be a tough one to take, because that was really close.
So Moffitt walks. First and second with 2 down. And here's Godfrey. Senior from Buckeye, Arizona. Another one of those Arizona products we were talking about. Ball and a strike. Well, BYU dealing with some injuries of their own, as we discussed as well. Their lineup has shuffled quite a bit. Off speed misses that time.
And to your point, typically as a coach, you would like to have your lineup solidified by now. Here we are approaching conference season, and like Tennessee has already played one conference series. You want to have your lineup that you're going to go with throughout the rest of the season, and both of these teams are still trying to figure out what they're going to do because of those injuries.
We were asking Gordon Eakin, what's the lineup going to look like? He basically said, if you have any ideas, let us know. I mean, he's that undecided about it right now because of the injuries and how much they've had to deal with, and players shuffling in and out. Look at him there.
And it's a lot of week-by-week injuries as well. And, if she's back, then, she can play here. Like with Marissa Chavez, we weren't sure if we were going to see her at short. So he gave us the whole rundown if she were at short and if she weren't at short. And that's a lot to go through if you're a coach of, is she going to be back? Is she not? And those are types of injuries that are almost more difficult than the season-ending injuries.
3-1 to Godfrey. It must be hard as a player, too, not knowing, are you in the lineup here? Where are you batting in the order? Where are you going to play in the field?
And these players want to get back as quickly as possible. And sometimes if you come back too fast, it can almost be worse for your injury, whatever that may be. But like we talked about Chelsea Sagern for the Lady Vols finally getting back out there at third base this game.
Godfrey hits one hard, and that's through. Sugg coming around the throw to the plate, not in time. It was a good one from Hannon in center. Sugg just under that tag, and BYU's on the board.
Godfrey getting a really good piece of this ball right over the plate, drives it straight back up the middle. Like you said, Kaylin Hannon picked this ball up right away, chucked it home, and I actually thought the throw did beat Sugg, but look there, you can see that Gracie Osborne goes to tag with 2 hands. Because she tags with 2 hands, she isn't able to reach as far. If she would have reached with just her glove hand, I guarantee you that Libby Sugg would have been out at home. But because she did tag with 2 hands, Libby Sugg's safe, and now BYU's got a run on the board.
Lexi Taro now. So a couple on still for BYU. Trying to come back from those 7 runs allowed in the bottom part of the first. A lot self-induced, mainly self-induced. 5 errors in the frame. You can see Taro's numbers there. Oh, 2 on the way. Lifted softly toward left on a slide. Ayala not able to get there. Another run in. It's 7-2.
And we said that BYU was going to have to do it 1 run at a time. And there's Lexi Taro coming in clutch. Gets this pitch off the end of the bat. Bloops it right over there into left field. Amanda Ayala does what she can to try to make that play, but isn't in time and allows another Cougar run to come across the board.
And credit the resiliency of this BYU team coming back with a solid frame after such a difficult first inning defensively. We talked about the at-bats early in the frame, Madison, drawing a walk with Sugg, and well, I should say, yeah, the singles and just putting the ball in play.
Trying to make something happen. Good things happen when you take the bat off your shoulder. That's what I always say.
And now Riley Jensen, their top hitter and leadoff hitter. Some good heat there from Rogers. Jensen struck out in the first to begin the game. Not something that's particularly easy to do with how much she's on base. Any adjustment you're seeing the BYU hitters make against Rogers in this inning?
They're continuing to be aggressive. They're laying off the balls out of the zone and getting pitches that Ashley Rogers is leaving over the heart of the plate and driving them to where the Tennessee defense isn't and taking advantage of that. You can see Ashley Rogers there trying to gather herself, and like we talked about, she is working with a different catcher, and it's amazing that relationship that pitchers and catchers can develop together. And Gracie Osborne working back there for the first time this year, so you're seeing a freshman duo trying to figure themselves out throughout this game.
Again, one of our top stories, I should say, at the top, Allie Shipman, the sister of the person next to me in the booth here, a tough injury last time out against Middle Tennessee State. She is out for the year. So catcher maybe by committee a lot of the way now for Tennessee to try to sort through things both offensively and defensively. A 2-2 on the way to Jensen. Fights it off.
And Jensen described as her coach as really a gamer, somebody who fights really hard throughout the game. And when they were down versus Oklahoma, she came up in the top of the seventh with a leadoff double. So she's not going to give up here. She's going to try to score some more runs and try to keep this momentum going for BYU.
Popped into left. Ayala there and puts it away. BYU does get a couple back. 7-2 Tennessee, middle of the second. 7-2 the lead for Tennessee. BYU getting a couple back in the top part of the second inning. Madison Shipman and Jack Benjamin with you. Another solid start for Tennessee to begin the season. A 19-3 record, including winning 2 out of 3 at Florida last weekend.
Well, that series down there was huge for them, getting that momentum, and not everybody expected them to go down there and do that. They thought maybe they would take one away, but they even got a 9-1 run rule victory on Friday. But I think a lot of that has to do with the schedule that they have played so far this season. They have played extremely tough teams. Florida State, James Madison, Notre Dame, Minnesota, all tough teams leading up to prepare them for this SEC conference play.
So there is a new pitcher on for BYU, and it is the person we thought would start the game, Carissa Viramontes, junior from Norco, California. You can see her numbers there. She had a terrific sophomore campaign, went 19-6 in her 14 starts and 155 innings, and has taken a light step back this year, but she's a tough pitcher.
And another player on this BYU team that's been dealing with some medical issues. But what you're going to see from Viramontes is she really likes to move that curveball. She's going to throw it on both sides of the plate. She'll occasionally throw a drop and a rise ball as well to give a different look. But the one thing that Coach Eakin really talked about was the fact that she's developed a changeup. She's added an off speed to her arsenal to, again, try to keep hitters off balance.
So Chelsea Segern singled to right in the first inning. Part of those first 8 batters to reach base. On the hands and handled at short. Well done by Williams. Take a look now at Haley Bearden, last time up, a 2-run triple.
Well, Haley Bearden gets this ball left right over the sweet spot of the plate, uses those legs and drives it out to the center field wall to allow 2 more runs to come across for the Lady Volunteers, and ends up legging out a triple herself for her first triple so far this season.
First of a career as well. Takes ball one. Well, people tuning in might look at the score and say Tennessee 7 runs. How many home runs have there been so far? The big story, 5 errors on BYU. So that really one of the few big hits. In foul grounds, this one handled by Sugg. And quickly 2 away. A nice bounce back inning so far for BYU.
Well, they got some momentum going with those 2 runs in the top of the second, and here we are seeing it transition over to the defensive side. Libby Sugg doing a nice job of popping up out of that squat, finding the ball, making the catch for out number 2.
Ashley Morgan now. Reached on a fielder's choice, scored one of those 7 runs. A good spot there from Vera Montes to even up the count. Tennessee, the number 5 team in the nation. BYU looking for a win over a top 10 opponent in about 4 years. This one drilled into the right center gap. It's up and it's gone. A solo shot for Ashley Morgan. And Tennessee continues to pour it on. It's 8-2.
Well, you just said that we were a little surprised that we hadn't seen a home run ball with the 7 runs up on the board, but Ashley Morgan says, you know what, I'll take that, and I'm also going to take this low and inside pitch and drive it straight over the center field wall. Just a fantastic job of hitting. Keeps her hands nice in behind the ball so that that ball can stay on that barrel for a long time and sends that one a long way as well. Fantastic swing by Ashley Morgan.
Continues her terrific sophomore campaign, 2nd of the year. Had 5 all of last year as a freshman. And now 8 runs on the board for Tennessee. Gracie Osborne swings and misses. Both of these teams have struggled a bit with giving up the long ball. And right on cue, I mentioned the lack of home runs. That one just a little bit elevated.
I think BYU fans are going to say that home run is on you, Jack. That one's your fault. You mentioned it.
Well, like many pitchers, Viramonte is terrific, but location such a premium against a lineup this balanced. You make one mistake, it's hard to get away with it.
In that pitch to Ashley Morgan, I don't even know if I would call that a mistake. I think I would just call that a really solid piece of hitting. That ball was low at the knees inside, and Ashley Morgan did a great job of keeping her hands inside, barrel behind the ball, and just lifts that one over the center field wall.
Down the line, and in foul ground, it's Williams to put it away. But Tennessee tacks on another. Ashley Morgan with some pop.
Ashley Morgan, 2nd home run of the year. Are you ready?
To the 3rd inning we go. 8-2 Tennessee. Tacking on another in the bottom part of the 2nd inning on an Ashley Morgan solo home run. And a new pitcher on for Tennessee. It's Maddie Moss, senior right-hander from Greenville, South Carolina. Has had a terrific career, having another solid season as a senior. What are you looking for from her, Madison?
Well, the first thing you're going to notice out of Maddie Moss is the amount of passion that she brings out there on the mound. She brings so much positive emotion out there. Every time she gets a strike, you can definitely tell by her body language, but she's going to throw that in the high 60s, works low in the zone. That fastball likes to drop off right at the end when she keeps it low, but the thing that she's really worked on with Coach Karen Weekly this year is an off-speed drop, trying to change speeds, because hitters like to go up against Maddie Moss and just sit that fastball. That's all they wanted to hit. And now because she's added in that off-speed drop, they can't just sit on that one pitch. She's mixing it in there, keeping them off balance, and doing a great job with it so far.
She'll face the 2-3-4, starting with Brooke Vanderhyde for BYU. Saw the numbers briefly on Moss. A sub 2.3 ERA. 5-1 in 12 appearances thus far. Just past a diving Sagern.
And even things like that are going to fire up pitcher Maddie Moss. Take a look at this. Chelsea Sagern just lays out, and that ball is just out of the reach of her glove. So close, but a fantastic effort by Chelsea Sagern to try to make a play on that one.
She makes that catch. We're looking at a top 10 play. Vanderhyde fouls off the bunt. The ball and 2 strikes now. One, two lifted toward third. And handled by Sagard, one away. So she didn't get the first one, Madison, but able to handle the second. And well done by Moss to induce some weak contact.
And that's what Maddie Moss is going to do when she's throwing that ball up there in the high 60s. Try to get those balls off the end of the bat. Try to get some routine plays for her defense behind her.
Taylor Williams taking a strike. Bounced out to second base in her first at-bat in the first inning. This one drilled toward the gap. And extra bases. Williams coasts into second with a one-out double.
We've seen a little bit of everything in this game. Great pitching and also great hitting. Take a look at that. Taylor Williams getting a pitch on the low outside corner of the plate and drives it into right center. Great job of hitting by that. That is not an easy pitch to hit, and she gets all barrel on that to try to get some runners going here for BYU, and they seem to get some momentum going last inning, so they're going to try to continue that here in the top of the third.
And they've got the right person up to try to maybe start changing the game around a little bit. Libby Sugg, their major home run threat. There's strike one. Sugg, an infield single and a run in the second. Got BYU on the board. Has been just such a vital part of this program for Gordon Eakin and company. Tennessee native coming home and has some family in attendance tonight. We'll have more this weekend as well. Must be a pretty cool moment for her.
Yeah, especially I believe they said about 21 family members and friends coming out to support her.
Taking out a whole section of the stands. Runner goes. And the throw not in time. Heads up base running by Williams to get herself to third base with one out.
And that's now Katie Weimer back there behind the plate for the Lady Vols. Drops and blocks, and this ball gets off just a little bit, but Taylor Williams does not even hesitate and easily takes third base, and another runner even closer to scoring for BYU.
Just missed there.
I think Maddie Moss might have thought she had strike three on that one. We saw a bit of that leg kick right there. It started, but ultimately got caught a ball, so she did not finish out the leg kick passion move that we see from Maddie Moss.
We'll wait for it. 2-2 upcoming on Sugg. Got her. A tough rise ball to handle, and there's two down.
There it was. We saw the high kick and the point back to her catcher. Take a look at this curveball right there, breaking off the plate at the end of it. Just a great pitch, and Katie Weimer back there was fired up as well after that runner got all the way to third base.
A look there at Weimer, who has come on to catch. Rain starting to come down a bit here in Knoxville. Epinesa takes ball 1. Popped out to first base, her first time up. Just missed. Even if it isn't much rain, how does it affect a pitcher when the ball starts getting a little wet?
Well, you got to try to make sure you're keeping your fingers dry. You can see there that she's grabbing the dirt, and she does that on every pitch, but just a little bit of moisture on your fingers can make that ball slip out and miss the spots by just a little bit. Take a look at that off speed right there. That's got to help bring your confidence back when you have that pitch. This is the pitch that we were talking about that she's developed this year. It's not a changeup, it's an off-speed drop. So it's that speed in between, and it's really hard to time as a batter. And coming out of her hand, it looks the exact same as some of her fastballs.
Another great off-speed, and it's 2-2. I was going to say, when it starts getting a little wet, you would think that's the pitch. Maybe that's the most difficult.
Sometimes that fastball, you really got to grip it, though, to throw it right. And with the off speeds, you might want to keep your hand a little bit looser so that it's coming out on time. So sometimes the off speeds work a little bit better in the rain than the fastballs.
2-2 on Epinesa. Just missed.
That is a tough pitch as a batter. You could see right at the end that ball tailing off the plate even more. So when it comes out of Maddie Moss's hand, it looks like it's going to stay on that outside part of the plate. And just right at the end, it breaks off the plate for a ball. Very tough pitch and a really good pitcher's pitch.
A good take. The count full with 2 down in the third. Hit sharply towards second. Handled by Parsons. And the side retired. So BYU strands a runner at third. Tennessee still up by 6. Bottom of the third in Knoxville, 8-2. Number 5 Tennessee on top of BYU. And we are pleased to be joined by BYU head coach Gordon Eakin. Coach, appreciate you coming on and joining us. Obviously a tough start for your team. How pleased are you, though, about their ability to bounce back in that second inning?
It's going to take a lot to please me today after that first inning. 5 errors. I've coached for a long time. We've had teams that have had 5 errors in a whole game. Never a team that's had 5 errors in a half inning. So it's probably going to take a whole lot more than scoring 2 runs.
Well, thank you, Coach. We appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
You're welcome.
Coach Eakin there. Obviously frustrated with the defense and can't blame him. 5 errors in that opening inning. Still time. Only the third, but a long way back for BYU on the road against the number 5 team in the nation. Ball 1 to Parsons, who reached on one of those 5 errors. And slaps this one into left field. A 5th hit for Tennessee. And Parsons on for a second time.
And Parsons, a batter that's really come on strong. I think that bats that stand out most to me in my mind throughout her season so far were against Florida State. She was facing one of the top pitchers in the nation in Megan King, and she just attacked her. Ended up getting a base hit in that game as well. And here we are. She's finally starting to see some more playing time, and she's taking advantage of it with that base hit right here.
Parsons, another freshman from Long Beach, as Hannon takes ball 1. Can see her numbers there. Terrific start to her season. Hit and run was on. This could be 2. And the turn not in time. So they get the fielder's choice at second. SEC Now with Derry, Pat, Damian, Andy, and Antoine will be here all night with previews, halftime reports, and postgame coverage of all the second-round games. Nobody covers the SEC like we do. SEC Now is also available on the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. Certainly a lot going on with conference tournament time. What a month March is. You've got baseball, softball in full swing, the conference tournaments, March Madness, so much to look forward to.
They call it March Madness for a reason, right? You got a little bit of everything going on.
They don't usually factor in the spring sports as well, though.
We do. I know we do, right?
Right. Had a loose ball from the bullpen trickle over. Aubrey Leach in the top of the order for Tennessee.
And as if Aubrey Leach wasn't hard enough to defend against already, but now this BYU defense is having to deal with the rain. They've got to make sure when they do field these balls, they're grabbing the seam so that those throws don't go all over the place.
You wonder as a pitcher right now where to put the ball against Aubrey Leach with the way she's seemingly hitting everything in sight. And a 4-pitch walk. The result here. So Leach has reached all 3 times today. 2 walks, a single, first and second, and 1 out now for Amanda Ayala. Ayala 0 for 1, reached on an error, but did score a run. Takes a strike. What's Carissa Viramontes thinking about on the mound right now? A couple on and just 1 out.
Well, you're trying to keep that ball, again, low in the zone. Once you bring it up in the zone, it gives Amanda Ayala the opportunity to hit the ball out of the park. And the lower in the zone she could keep it and keep throwing the balls on the outside half there, she might be able to get a ground ball over to the left side, get a quick out at third base, and possibly turn 2 if it's hit hard enough.
Hit sharply foul.
And I can't speak enough to the improvement that Amanda Ayala has made from her freshman year to her sophomore year. When we talked to Coach Karen Weekly earlier in the year, she said that they talked to Amanda before the season and said that last year it was almost like she was tiptoeing around her freshman season, and for her sophomore year they wanted her to dive in, and that's exactly what she's done, going up there, taking hacks and producing those power numbers that you didn't see last year.
It's a great analogy. I was thinking about that when she said it as well. Certainly has been such an offensive force for this Tennessee team, hitting better than 450 coming in. That one just missed.
And Coach Weekly said that was something that they worked on all fall, and she came out in their first weekend in Myrtle Beach and had a couple of at-bats where she wasn't being that same player they saw all fall, and they told her, you need to dive in, you need to go all out, and she did that from that moment on, and that's where you're seeing all the production from her bat.
Popped up in foul grounds and handled for out number 2.
Tough play for Olivia Sanchez over there at first base, not only having to deal with that ball that was hit sky high, but she's also got the rain going in her face. You could see there she was saying that the rain was hitting her in the face the entire time, but she stays underneath it and is able to get the out for out number 2.
So 2 down and a couple still on for Tennessee, and now Kaylee Phillips. Tennessee 7 runs in the first, 1 more tacked on a Ashley Morgan solo shot in the second. BYU got 2 in the top part of that frame. Phillips already 8 home runs this year. We were talking about this earlier, Madison. 8 of her 13 hits are home runs.
I think that might be my favorite stat coming into this game is just the amount of power that she has in her bat. That is an unreal stat to have 8 of your 13 hits be home runs. It's like all or nothing for Kaylee Phillips when she's up there at the plate, and definitely worked in her advantage down in Gainesville last weekend. Ended up hitting 3 home runs on the weekend.
Speaking of power, this one off the scoreboard and gone. Right on cue. Kaylee Phillips goes yard again. Her 9th of the year. Tennessee has broken it open once more.
Kaylee Phillips, 9th home run of the year.
The production from these freshmen for Tennessee is just absolutely unreal. Kaylee Phillips unloads on this ball over the outside half of the plate, pulls it straight into the center field scoreboard for home run number 9 on the year. Just insane for Kaylee Phillips.
You think about what she's doing, and we can only put it in perspective so much with stats, but you think about this being a freshman and doing it against some really good pitching. I mean, doing it in her first SEC series. Teams now have had time to scout her. It's just remarkable, and that one, not only is it out, Madison, it's a no-doubter.
Oh, no doubt. As soon as that ball was hit off the bat, everybody in the stadium knew that that thing was going over the wall. And you've got to imagine that hitting that home run last weekend off of Kelly Barnhill had to give her so much confidence. She was a hot hitter going into that weekend, but not too many players in the nation can say that they've hit a home run off of her. She is an elite pitcher. She is as good as it gets. And for a freshman to come down there into Gainesville knowing that Tennessee hadn't won a series down there since 2007 and makes a statement hitting that home run off of Kelly Barnhill, and here it is transitioning over into the next weekend, hitting yet another home run for Phillips on the year.
Give her 24 RBIs as well. The offensive outburst continues. So 11-2. And now Chelsea Segern taking ball 1.
And speaking of offensive production, Chelsea Segern probably had the toughest job in the NCAA last year, and that was hitting behind Megan Gregg. Megan Gregg was All-American shortstop for this Lady Vol team last year, ended up with 77 RBIs on the year, and they needed somebody to protect Megan Gregg so that Megan Gregg could still see pitches, and Chelsea Segern stepped up to that plate and embraced that challenge, ended up with 66 RBIs on the year. So Lady Vol fans are definitely happy to have Chelsea Segern back in the lineup, and started off this game with a base hit to right field, and knowing that her knee is healing, she's back out there at third base and bringing her bat back into this offense.
You mentioned the RBI production hitting behind Gregg, but really the number that goes up, people at home may be wondering, well, when you're protecting a player versus when you don't have someone like Gregg in the lineup and maybe there's not someone that they're trying to pitch around or give them certain pitches to, the average up near 500 now. Pops this one up. And off the glove and left of a normally sure-handed Riley Jensen. Just one of those nights for BYU defensively.
Man, it just seems like they just cannot seem to make the routine plays. This ball hit right out to left field. Riley Jensen underneath it all the way, and this ball just pops right back out of her glove. There's no explanation for it, no reason why it happened. It just popped right on out, and another error for BYU.
Not a whole lot you can say if you're Gordon Eakin right now.
And he said there wasn't too much that was going to make him happy today, and I would imagine that that probably adds to the unhappiness that he's feeling over there in the first base dugout.
6 errors. You saw that stat when we showed the error count for BYU. Tennessee has 5 as a team on the season.
And these BYU pitchers are doing their job. They're, besides the Ashley Morgan and Kaylee Phillips home run, they've been keeping the ball low in the zone, inducing ground balls and a couple of fly balls, but their defense just has not been able to back them up.
Pitch gets by, and Segern easily takes second base. Well, Gordon Eakin was talking to us. We were asking him about this program, and they have been just unbelievably successful. They'll be going this year for a 6th consecutive West Coast Conference title, as that one's fouled off. They've won overall 11 straight conference titles. They've been in 3 different conferences. Asking him what it's going to take to get to that championship level. They want to be in the Supers, Madison, every single year and compete for College World Series titles. And the bottom line is they have to be cleaner in a lot of facets. We talked about winning close games already. It's the little things.
Yeah, they said that their losses are self-induced, and that's exactly what we're seeing here today on this field. A lot of errors, a couple of walks here and there, and that's a bad combination when you're trying to go out there against the top teams in the country.
Called strike 3 on Bearden. But Tennessee continues to roll. Kaylee Phillips, her 9th of the year. All Lady Vols in Knoxville. 11-2, the advantage for number 5 Tennessee on BYU as we head to the 4th. Some fans enjoying themselves despite the rain here in Knoxville. Such a great home crowd they have here at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium. Madison Shipman and Jack Benjamin with you. You must miss it every time you're up here in the booth.
Oh, I get to hear the Lady Vol Locos. You can hear them from inside the booth. They are always loud. They are bringing tons of energy, and they travel quite a long ways to watch these Lady Vols play, and not just softball, but Lady Vol basketball as well. They're very supportive of all the sports here on campus, and they also have tons of different cheers that goes along with every player on the field. So if you're at a Lady Vol game, you are definitely going to hear the Locos up there in the stands.
So we head to the 4th inning. Maddie Moss back to work. We'll face the 6, 7, 8 in the order, starting with Olivia Sanchez. Autumn Moffitt and Ashley Godfrey to follow, assuming no pinch hitters in between. Well, we talked about BYU working back from 7-0 down after an inning, but 3 more runs given up. The Jensen error on just a routine pop fly. It has to be frustrating for this team because obviously plays they should be making, but they've had a lot of quality at-bats here today too.
They have. They've put solid barrel on the ball, putting the ball in play. They're not striking out very often, and they're just trying to make something happen. And I think you have to go into this with the same mindset that they did back in the top of the 2nd. You've got to chip away 1 run at a time. You can't try to score 3 runs with every swing, because that's when you start swinging at balls, you start swinging at pitches that you wouldn't normally. And again, this BYU team just got to focus on putting the ball in play, trying to make something happen.
On the flip side, if you are Maddie Moss here and pitching with such a huge lead, how do you stay focused on the mound?
Maddie Moss, you can see out there, she has a process that she goes through every single pitch. She reaches down, she grabs the dirt, wipes it off on her leg, takes a deep breath, leans back. So for her, it's just focusing on that process and just focusing on those pitches themselves. Once you start thinking about your opponent and the score and the weather, that's when things start to go out of whack. So for her, just really working on that process, focusing on that same routine that she does every single pitch.
Sunday at 5 Eastern, 4 Central, we'll have the 2nd game of the big 3-game series between number 7 Florida and number 8 LSU in Baton Rouge. SEC softball is also available on the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. A couple other big series this weekend as well. Georgia at Missouri, South Carolina, Arkansas. SEC softball heating up, conference play right here. Sanchez fights that one back. What do you think about those few series we just talked about?
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that Florida-LSU series. Florida trying to bounce back again from losing the series to Tennessee last weekend. LSU won their series versus Texas A&M, and LSU has some of the hottest bats in the lineup, including Shelby Sinceri, who pitches and hits, and she's got 11 home runs. I don't know if it gets much better than that for a player.
A lot of numbers we've been talking about impressive offensively in this game, but absolutely.
I really like this off-speed drop from Maddie Moss. Again, throwing it low in the zone, taking just enough off of it so that Olivia Sanchez is out in front.
Foul of third.
And the other thing that off-speed does is it sets up to where her fastballs look like they're coming in even faster than they normally would. When you're throwing the same speed every single pitch, it kind of gets monotonous, and batters can really get their timing to it, but when she adds in that off-speed drop, it makes it very hard to catch up to that pitch that's coming in 65, 66 miles an hour.
0-2 on the way. Got her. Maddie Moss hyped up. Gets her second strikeout.
Maddie Moss throwing this pitch up and out of the zone, and that's what getting to an 0-2 count on the batter allows you to do. You can throw pitches out of the zone, and Olivia Sanchez was fighting a couple of them off and just not on time for that pitch well out of the zone.
Brooke Hill, the batter for BYU. There's a strike. So Hill bats for Autumn Moffitt, who walked and scored a run in the second inning. We were joking with Gordon Eakin, asking him, Madison, about the lineup, who we might see. Basically said anyone who's on the roster, you'll probably see them at some point. And we've pretty much seen everyone already.
Well, and if the injuries weren't enough, their defense is making so many errors that it wouldn't surprise me if he's making a bunch of defensive changes out there too, just trying to make sure that he gets a defense out there that can make the plays. Again, their pitchers are throwing the ball down, trying to get Tennessee to hit ground balls, and when they have hit ground balls, their defense just hasn't been able to come up with the plays.
Worth noting a new outfield, speaking of defensive changes for Tennessee. Batts, Holcomb, and Poindexter, now the three in the outfield. 1-2 to Hill. And just over the arms of an outstretched Segern. Good piece of hitting by Hill, and a runner aboard with one out for BYU.
Brooke Hill gets this pitch on the inside half of the plate. Jams her up a little bit, but you can see she is very strong. She gets enough of this ball to lift it right over the head of Chelsea Sagern at third base. And look how far back Chelsea Sagern was playing as well. She is well behind the bag, but again, Brooke Hill hits it solid enough to where that thing drops right into left field.
Every base runner so important right now for BYU, trying to work their way back from 9 down. Ashley Godfrey, the batter. A runner on and one out. That one skips in. Going back to Moss and her development of the new off-speed pitch we've been talking about, that's not something that's easy to do when you're a senior. I mean, you've been here 3 years. You have an established repertoire you want to go to. And credit the adjustment that she's made to try to improve and get better.
And I think that's something that, as a pitcher, you almost have to do. Now it's a rare stance that Maddie Moss is coming up with an entirely new pitch. But when you're a senior and you have as much film as players have access to now, pretty much every game you can find online, you have to change up something in your arsenal to keep these hitters off balance. You might be able to have success your freshman and your sophomore year doing the same things, but you really got to change things up junior and senior year. And kudos to Maddie Moss for throwing in there that off-speed drop to keep hitters off balance.
A meeting at the mound. Count right now 3-0, and Tennessee will talk it over a bit. Ralph Weekly out there.
If I had to guess, I'd say that Ralph Weekly's going out there telling Maddie Moss to make sure that she brings that ball in the zone. He's probably not happy with that 3-0 count. When you're up on a team 11-2, you want to throw the ball right at these batters, not give them any free passes. So if I had to guess, I would say that that was the bulk of the message from Ralph Weekly out there.
Something tells me it maybe wasn't a guess.
It's like I'd been there before,
yeah,
right?
it's like he's coached you.
Just a time or two.
See what Moss does with the 3-0 to Godfrey. There's a strike. Well, I'd say Ralph Weekly and Karen have been there a time or two with getting their pitchers ready when they're in holes. This one, albeit a very small one for Maddie Moss. Godfrey, an RBI single her first time up. Fouls that one away. There's Karen Weekly. The co-coaches here at Tennessee. What a remarkable stretch they've had. 18 years. They're soon going to approach that 900 win threshold here in Knoxville. You just can't say enough about the job they have done.
Well, it's one thing to build a program, but to sustain a program and have as many Women's College World Series appearances as they have speaks volumes to how good of coaches they are, both on and off the field.
And another strikeout for Moss. Hyped up again. We saw the kick. 2 away.
I'd say that Coach Ralph Weekly is very happy with that comeback. Maddie Moss throwing this fastball on the outside half of the plate. Just, you can see that ball breaking right at the last minute, makes it very tough for hitters to get on top of. And again, another strikeout victim for Maddie Moss.
So works back from the 3-0 count to strike out Godfrey. Now Lexi Taro. There's a strike.
And we talked about the little things with BYU, but I think it's the little things for Tennessee, and that's why you saw Coach Ralph Weekly come out there, because he demands perfection out of his pitchers. And when you're up 11-2, you do not give up free passes to these teams. You go right after these batters.
Count even on Taro. Singled in one of the 2 runs in that second inning for BYU. Well, Moss has had an outstanding career here in Knoxville, 6th in program history and career ERA. Punched foul. But even someone so experienced sometimes needs to be calmed down, and certainly someone who pitches with so much emotion as we were discussing.
And one of the things with Maddie Moss is typically when you have a pitcher that's so emotional, it can almost be a downside. But for Maddie Moss, she's always positive. It doesn't matter what's going on. She's always that positive player out there on the field and a solid base for the rest of the defense to really feed off of as well.
Pitch just missed, and a steal as well for Brooke Hill.
That steal looks like it surprised the Tennessee defense a bit. Katie Weimer was back there framing the pitch as the runner was running to second, and that meant that no throw ended up going down to second to try to get her out.
So Hill into scoring position. And tipped into the glove of Weimer. Moss, 3 strikeouts in the frame.
Well, we've been talking about the off-speed all day, and how about that? Maddie Moss pulling the string on that one, and Lady Ball's up 11-2.
(11-2) Tennessee as we head to the bottom part of the 4th in Knoxville. And we are joined by Tennessee co-head coach Karen Weekly. Karen, thanks for coming on with us. What are you pleased with most with your group here tonight?
Base running. You know, we've had a lot of runners on base, and we run the base as well. But Quite honestly, it's kind of a sloppy game on both sides. We've thrown way too many pitches. We're through the order twice, and we've only, played 3.5 innings. So, we need to swing the bats a little bit better. We've gotten some big hits, but we've also hit a lot of ground balls when we needed to lift the ball. And I think we're just not very sharp in the circle. So, and I thought there were some plays we needed to make out there. I know the scoreboard would indicate otherwise, but it really hasn't been a very clean game on either side.
Thank you very much, Coach. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Karen Weekly always finding something her team can improve upon, and of course that's part of what makes a great coach. An 11-2 Tennessee lead, and always thinking ahead because that's what a championship program has to do.
Well, and that shows you that coaches Karen and Ralph Weekly are never coaching to the scoreboard. They're not even looking out there. They are coaching on what is happening right there on the field, because it would be very easy for them to just let those little things slip by. But when it comes down to postseason winning national championships, those are the things that put you above other teams.
Ashley Morgan begins for Tennessee here in the fourth. Had that solo blast in the second. One of 2 Tennessee home runs today, along with a 3-run shot by Kaylee Phillips. Carissa Viramontes back out for her 3rd inning of work. It just seems like, Madison, this whole Tennessee batting order, they're just all in such a good groove right now. And part of it, too, as that pitch misses, hitting is contagious. At least it feels like. It certainly seems like that right now for this Lady Vols group.
One of the things that really stands out to me is the way that they take pitches. Take Ashley Morgan, for example, a hitter that hit 252 last year and is hitting a whopping 400 this year, knows exactly what she wants to hit in certain counts, and when she takes a pitch, she's very confident in that take. You never see her really jerky, which means she's settled, she's confident, she knows what she's going after, and that's why you're seeing so much run production from this Tennessee offense, is because they're like that all the way throughout the lineup.
Hit sharply to short. Handled, though, and play made there by Williams for the first out.
Williams making a play on that. You can see how hard the rain is coming down now, and something that BYU has definitely struggled with so far this game, but does a good job of fielding that ball, making sure it's in her glove, and it was hit hard enough to where she had time to set herself and make sure she had a good throw over to first base.
We talked about Marissa Chavez starting the game at short, had a couple errors in that first inning where BYU committed 5 of them. So Madison Piscini will be the batter now for Tennessee. Freshman from San Diego. Just 3 for 24 thus far in the season. Did make a start in Game 2 of the series on Saturday against Florida.
And we've been talking about injuries all day with BYU and Tennessee, and Madison Piscini is a freshman that suffered an ACL tear last summer, so she's been working on recovering from that all fall and into this season. You see quite a few of those around the league, and those are unfortunate injuries, and luckily for me, I never had to deal with one of those while I was playing, but I cannot imagine having to go through that.
Such a long, arduous recovery from that kind of injury. It's amazing now the kind of treatment and recovery tactics that they have to get players back on the field so quick. 1-1 the count. And it has to be getting harder and harder to grip the ball right now for Carissa Viramontes.
Viramontes does have that towel out there, but you can see Libby Sugg is handing that ball to her, trying to make sure no raindrops hit it at all, because it gets very tough to grip those pitches as a pitcher out there. Really got to try to grab the seams as much as you can and just power through this rain. There's just not much you can do about it until the umpires say you can't go anymore, so you just got to keep fighting.
3-1 now on Piscini. Well, we were talking a little bit about Viramontes and her scouting report. This is the reigning West Coast Conference Pitcher of the Year, a second-team All-Conference selection, part of the All-Pacific Region third team. She actually threw 199 pitches in a 12-inning game last year, so certainly has the ability to be a workhorse for this BYU team.
I think my arm's falling off just at the thought of having to throw 199
Me
pitches.
too.
Not to mention the warm-up before that don't even count as those numbers.
Payoff pitch. And missed upstairs. So a one-out walk for Piscini. And now Savannah Huffstetler will pinch hit for Tennessee.
Next up for UT, number 16, Savannah Huffstetler.
Huffstetler, a redshirt junior from Sewanee, Georgia. And ball one. Just 2 of 18 to start the season for Huffstetler, and Gordon Eakin will make a change. It's actually the pitching coach, Pete Meredith, out there. He was promoted to associate head coach before the season. Talking with his right-hander, Viramontes. What's the discussion like there, you think, between pitching coach and pitcher?
I would say that he's probably asking her about the wetness on the field and just dealing with that, probably telling her just to keep on pushing through it. Again, there's not much you can do. You've got to be able to control the controllables. Weather, unfortunately, is not one of them. So she's got to just keep on fighting through it, trying to grab those seams and get that ball in the strike zone.
Sunday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, we'll have our SEC Now selection special where we'll break down the brackets and preview all the games the SEC teams are playing in. You can always watch it on the ESPN app from anywhere. Selection Sunday right around the corner. Already talked about championship week in college basketball, and a lot of meaningful games in college softball right now as well. Texas lurking for both of these teams this weekend. This is certainly a strong group of teams to play in this Tennessee Invitational. And both of these teams have stressed the importance of playing difficult teams early on in the season.
When you play these tough teams, it exploits the weaknesses that you do have on your team that you need to shore up before you get into the postseason, because ultimately that's everybody's goal, to make it to the postseason, to get to regionals, super regionals, and onto the World Series.
This is BYU's 5th ranked opponent they've played. Tennessee, of course, always a loaded schedule of games. When you have 5 teams ranked in the top 10 in the SEC, that'll do that. Count 3-0 on Huffstetler. And a 4-pitch walk. Back-to-back freebies for this Tennessee offense. A look there at the schedule for Tennessee, games they've played, games upcoming. It just gets tougher and tougher as they go. But again, Madison, that's what you have to do to be a championship contender.
Yeah, and that's the nature of the SEC. You're always going to play top teams. It's never an off weekend during conference play, but take a look at those losses to James Madison and Florida State. James Madison has redshirt senior Megan Good, who is a phenomenal pitcher, that threw just a great game in that Florida State loss, ended up losing 5-2. But remember, Haley Bearden had a 3-run home run robbed from her in left field that would have tied up the game. So those losses were, again, good learning experiences for this Tennessee team.
Jenna Holcomb, the batter, junior from Los Alamitos, California. 1 down and 2 on for the Lady Vols in the 4th. And Karen Weekly, talking with her, asking her what she's been impressed with about the team. It wasn't a win, but it was that Florida State loss she referenced immediately. A young team getting down early in the way they bounced back in what was just an unbelievable environment for a February game.
It really had a postseason feel to it. It felt like you were in Oklahoma City at the World Series. Just an amazing venue that was put on by ESPN down there in Clearwater. I got to say, I was there as a fan, and I did not find a seat in the stands. I was standing down the left field line because there was standing room only. I could not find a seat. It was that kind of atmosphere down there.
I'm guessing there were a lot of people in that same boat with how many packed it in. Just a terrific field they have there every year. 1-2 the count. Back to Viramontes. And she hesitates before going to third. Another defensive miscue by BYU. Everybody's safe. Bases loaded. And Aubrey Leach coming up.
And Viramontes had the right idea on that ground ball to get the shore out over at third base, but it looked like Epinesa was not at third base on time, and that's why Viramontes hesitated to make that throw over to third base. And as a pitcher, when that does happen and you see that your third baseman maybe isn't turned around on time, your first instinct has to be to throw the ball right back over to first base to just try to get one out in that situation.
Gordon Eakin will come back out. I was thinking initially, Madison, that maybe Viramontes was debating whether there was indeed a force at third base, but yeah, I mean, that's definitely seems more like the defensive alignment of Epinesa, as you mentioned, as Gordon Eakin will make a change. And looks like Viramontes will hand the ball off. Take a look at some of the pitching numbers we've had so far today, and Viramontes' day is done. 2 1/3, 4 earned, responsible for a couple more on base, and 59 pitches thrown.
And a tough day for these BYU pitchers. Again, keeping the ball down on the ground for the most part, trying to get some ground balls, and even that fly ball we saw out in left field. 6 errors, something that is definitely controllable by this BYU defense to try to cut down these runs, because they're finding themselves here with the run rule coming into effect in the 5th inning. So they've got to try to score runs in the top of the 5th to keep this game going.
New pitcher is Olivia Sanchez, who we've seen a couple times at the plate already tonight. Senior from Murrieta, California. It'll be her 15th appearance so far. She's made 13 starts already as well. Actually, beg your pardon, only her 2nd appearance. I apologize. Made a bunch of appearances last year as a junior. And a tough task to come in, and the first batter you face is Aubrey Leach with the bases loaded. So 1 down in the 4th. Tennessee already up 11-2. Aubrey Leach doing what she does, has reached all 3 times. A single, her 2nd at-bat in the 1st inning when the lineup batted around. There's a strike.
And it's so tough for these defenses against Aubrey Leach, but especially now because the infield has to play up because there are bases loaded. If there's a ground ball hit to the infield, they need to be able to make that out at home. But again, Aubrey Leach could stand in there and hit away.
Sits back and laces one to left. 2 runs in. And the throw to third in time. They nail Holcomb there. But still 2 more runs in. Aubrey Leach, his 2nd hit. It's 13-2 Tennessee.
Aubrey Leach very patient up at the plate, waits for this pitch on the outside half of the plate and drives it into left field. Riley Jensen, again, having to work with that wet ball, does a nice job of throwing that ball over to third base, getting the out at 3 to make it out number 2, but not before a couple more runs come across the board.
Tiana Batts is the batter. Takes ball 1. So she hits for Amanda Ayala. Batts, a junior from Taylorsville, North Carolina. Hit sharply through the hole. Leach coming around, scores easily. And an RBI single for Tiana Batts. 14-2 Lady Vols.
Well, Coach Ralph Weekly made that defensive change, putting in a ton of slappers out in the outfield, and this is exactly why. Their job is to put the ball on the ground. Tiana Batts gets a pitch on the outside half and drives it right back up the middle, allowing Aubrey Leach to score easily. And the speed of Tiana Batts, she's able to make it to second base to put yet another runner in scoring position for this Tennessee offense.
Only her 15th at-bat, but 7 hits so far for her on the season. Treasury Poindexter takes a strike. Still 2 down for Tennessee. 3 more runs in here in the 4th. They got 7 in the first. If you're just joining us, 5 BYU errors in that frame. They've scored a run, at least 1 in every inning. A couple home runs as well. And this offense continues to click in high gear. Count now 1-1 on Poindexter, the junior from Covington. Foul back toward us.
Too bad this glass is here. I might have tried to make a catch on that one.
Do you keep your glove on you at all times still?
I don't.
Have you ever brought it by accident to the park?
No, I have not. I will say I have not brought my glove to the field.
I figured I was going to show up here today and you'd have all the equipment just in case.
Oh, do you think I was going to be in uniform up here too?
Doesn't there have to be a shipman playing in the game? I mean, Allie got hurt, so someone has to come in, right?
Borrow her catcher's gear up here in the booth next time.
Olivia Sanchez trying to work her way out of this frame. Poindexter fights off another. Actually, he was fouled away, beg your pardon, so it is indeed strike 3. End of the inning for Tennessee, but they tack on 3 more, and Aubrey Leach continues to do her thing.
Aubrey Leach, the leading hitter on this Tennessee team, and she's showing us why. Vols are up 14-2 going into the 5th.
5th-ranked Tennessee, 3 outs away from a convincing win, which would be their 20th of the young season. Up big on BYU with Madison Shipman, Jack Benjamin on hand. A look there at A.J. Talalihi, a BYU assistant coach. And Madison, you have a little story about your relationship with her and the family and BYU going head-to-head with Tennessee.
Yes, I played travel ball with her younger sister, Coco, and my senior year at Tennessee, we were playing BYU. I hit a home run to put us up, but BYU ended up coming back, and Coco in center field ended up robbing a home run for me, which would have tied up the game, and ultimately we lost to BYU in 2014, and I believe that's the last time that BYU has beaten Tennessee. But great story, great to see a family atmosphere here at the field today.
I'm sure Coco is smiling if she's listening right now, thinking back on the memory.
She probably remembers robbing that home run from me, and she's definitely smiling with that
Hey, if you
one.
remember it, I bet she does too. AJ, a terrific player in her own right at Hawaii. She was an All-American there as well. one of those softball families. This is Aubrielle Paulson at the plate, by the way. Maddie Moss trying to close this out for Tennessee. There's so many stories like that in softball, Madison, and you know this directly because of Allie and your whole family background, but it just seems like when one sibling plays, the pattern follows.
Well, especially for the Paulson sisters, like you said, Aubrielle Paulson is up to bat. Her sister Arissa is on the team currently, and her older sister Ariana was a pitcher on the team last year, so definitely a family atmosphere at BYU.
Seger, a nice play at third. Almost looked like she stabbed it on a short hop, if not caught it in the air, and quickly one down in the fifth. Yeah, the Paulson sisters, the third pair that Gordon Eakin has had to navigate in his time.
He just said he recruited the whole family, just brought them all to BYU.
Why not? Morgan Bevel, the batter, takes a strike.
And going back to the Paulsons, their older brother also played rugby at BYU as well, so definitely a family affair over there for the Paulsons.
Parents were great athletes as well. There's a called strike. Lost in our discussion about siblings has been Maddie Moss. Terrific the last few innings. 0-2. And hit sharply foul. What has she done well tonight in the circle?
Well, for the most part, she's been getting ahead of batters. You remember that 1 3-0 count she got. Ralph Weekly came out and talked to her, and even Coach Karen Weekly said that she's demanding perfection out of her pitchers. And so far, Maddie Moss has executed that off-speed drop as well. So again, very hard for these BYU hitters to get on time with that pitch along with her fastball.
Bevel fights it off. Ralph Weekly and his staff always tinkering and getting ready for the next challenge. Moss seeking a fifth strikeout. And just missed. A couple times you can tell she's wanted the call on the corners.
I'd say she really liked that pitch, but a good spot for an 0-2 fastball low in the zone. That ball just missed on the lower half of the strike zone, but a pitch that if the batter were to swing at it, there's not a whole lot you can do with that pitch.
1-2 on Bevel. And the off-speed gets her 5 strikeouts for Maddie Moss. Tennessee's an out away.
I always love a good off-speed, and this one gets me fired up. Take a look at that off-speed drop. It's moving about 6 inches within the zone, taking a couple of miles per hour off of it as well. Very impressive pitch for Maddie Moss, especially since we know that she just developed that pitch this year.
Certainly has command of it today. Taylor Williams, the last chance for BYU before the run rule. Another first pitch strike. Can see the emotion of the senior Maddie Moss.
I'd say she's liking those off-speed drops as well, getting her fired up on the mound.
A ball and a strike on Williams. Now, if you're BYU, obviously a tough one here today, and the error is a huge part of this. How do you then come back and mentally get ready for tomorrow?
Well, I think you can take something away from this game knowing that it got out of hand because of the errors. It's something that BYU can definitely control going forward. So you can take that away. Your pitchers, for the most part, did a good job of keeping Tennessee inside the yard. They only hit the 2 runs, which coming off of their weekend from Florida last weekend, hitting the 6th, that is definitely an improvement. But they could definitely take that away, that it was really themselves that got beat on this field today by the errors and the walks.
And we talked about the number of quality at-bats they had, especially early in this game, and credit the Tennessee pitching staff for settling down after really just a one bumpy inning. On full display right now with Matty Moss. Tennessee a strike away. 1-2 the count on Taylor Williams. Again, just missed that outside corner.
And I think the umpire's saying those ones are a bit low, but again, a very good pitch to throw when you're ahead in the count. If you were to swing at that as a batter, if Taylor Williams were to take a hack at that, it'd be very difficult for her to get that ball into the outfield.
2-2 on the way. And a good at-bat working here. Sophomore Taylor Williams, transferred in from Southern Utah. Had a sensational season as a freshman. Batted .388, hit 7 home runs. Was an all-conference honorable mention in the Big Sky as a freshman. So 2-2 and 2 down. Top of the 5th. Williams is the last chance with the run rule in effect. Matty Moss ready to go. And popped up. And easily put away. Aubrey Leach handles it. Tennessee has win number 20 on the Young campaign. The 5th-ranked Volunteers dominant in the opener to this Tennessee Invitational. And you can see they're the first team to run roll BYU in 2019.
Well, that speaks volumes to what a team that BYU does have. They really beat themselves out there on the field, and Tennessee took advantage of those mistakes that they made and ended up making 5 errors in that first inning. That led to 7 runs for the Lady Vols, and we saw a little bit of everything from the Vols today. Good pitching, great hitting, and like Coach Karen Weekly said, great base running as well.
Certainly a dominant performance here today from Tennessee. 7 runs in the first. So for Madison Shipman, I'm Jack Benjamin saying so long from Sherry Parker Lee Stadium, where the final score is Tennessee 14, BYU 2. To watch this entire game on replay, as well as other games on our family of ESPN networks, log on to watchespn.com or download the Watch ESPN app. This has been a presentation of ESPN. Good night, everyone, from Knoxville.